Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Things Aviation and Aerospace. I'm Vince Mickens. Looking forward to today's show because we're going to be talking about the Purdue Aviation Day. Purdue Aviation Day, which is put on by the Purdue School of Aviation and Transportation Technology, which is quite a comprehensive program that Purdue University has. And I have two great guests that I'm really looking forward to talking with and learning more about not only Purdue Aviation Day, but about the university that's a very much aviation-centric university that so many people know about and so many people want to go to and has such great programs. And so I'm going to start out by introducing Nicolas Shelton. Nicolas is a junior this year, but he's also the Senior Vice President of Public Relations for Purdue Aviation Day. He's the President of Aviation Ambassadors there at Purdue University, and Nicolas is the Vice President of Aviation Technology Student Council. So he's got a few things that he's busy doing there. And on top of all that, he's majoring in professional flight and minoring in atmospheric science. I always find the minors interesting sometimes. So I actually look forward to hearing more about that. Along with Nicolas, we have Stephanie Brown. Stephanie is the program manager of aviation safety for Purdue University. She has an undergraduate degree from Purdue in aviation management, specializing in air traffic control. I was telling her a little bit before that the timing is kind of good to talk about that a bit, very much so in terms of the need for air traffic controllers. There's a huge shortage in that workforce that they're ramping up to try to start filling that pipeline. So there's a lot of opportunity to be an air traffic controller. So it'll be interesting to hear her perspective on that and why she even had that as a part of her major. She also has a master's in aviation and aerospace management. And some of her previous things that she's done is she's worked for Alaska Airlines. I did that actually for Nicolas' sake, because Nicolas was like, hey, don't forget to mention that about her. She probably won't tell you herself. So there we go. Guys, welcome to All Things Aviation and Aerospace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys. I know you're busy. This is a very busy time for you, like crazy busy with a major event happening less than 48 hours from now. And so I can only imagine what's on your plate. So I really do appreciate you taking some time to talk with me about what you're doing and about the event and things like that. Why don't we kind of start with that and just tell us a little bit about the event, starting with you, Nicolas. Tell us about it. It's got quite a history, and it's become a thing there in West Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah, it certainly has become a thing. Purdue Aviation Day is happening April 15th. So that's about a day and 7 hours and some minutes, but who's counting, right? So Purdue Aviation Day is an event that the students of the school put on. We also incorporate students outside the School of Aviation, but it's exclusively student run. That's one of the things that I'm probably most proud of with the organization and kind of the way that the relationship between the school and the students is. There's a lot of student leadership activities and opportunities. So one of them happens to be on April 15th. The main events from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We added an extra hour because last year we found, even though it sleeted, it rained, it snowed, and every other form of precipitation possible, we still had 7,500 people decide to show up in 25-ish degree weather. And this year, it's looking
aviation will do that to you, by the way.
Yeah. So this year it's looking a little bit better, about 70 something degrees. So we're hoping for, just about 10,000 people showing up. It's going to be a great day. Really, the theme of the event is like exploration and discovery in aviation. And then, career opportunities, that sort of thing. We have a whole career fair. We have just over 25 static aircraft that will be displayed. We're also going to have the U.S. Army Golden Knights, which, as you may know, is a parachute demonstration team. They're kind of like the premier team in the U.S.
I actually do know about them. I was actually at another aviation career event here in the Maryland area and actually went up with the Golden Knights. I didn't jump out of the plane with them, but I was part of everything else. And that's a really great thing. It's nice that you guys are having that there. It's kind of a unique career, if you want to call it like that. But just what they do is pretty amazing in terms of their precision and accuracy, and just watching the whole process. So seeing them prep for it, and then going up with them in the plane and watching them jump out. And by the way, it can get pretty cold up there, especially during the winter months. And this was back in November. So anyhow, but yeah, that's really great that you're having that as one of your highlights there. But go ahead, Nicolas. I just had to throw that in, brag about me being in the, playing with the Army Golden Knights.
Yeah, no, they adhere to or they don't adhere to the motto that, you never jump out of a perfectly good airplane. But for some reason, they've taken a liking to that. But yeah, it's gonna be a great day. We also have a GA fly-in, so if you're in the area, you're involved in general aviation, whether you own a plane or you're renting a plane. We do a pilots and pancakes style event where you show up to our hangars at the school, and we'll feed you right before the event. That starts at 8 a.m. And it'll run all the way until about mid-afternoon. So it's a really cool event to get out, kind of get on board aircraft. I also have a lot of prospective students that'll come out and see the event, kind of just see, hey, well, what's this whole aviation thing about, or what's this whole Purdue in aviation thing about? Because really, when we talk about aviation and Purdue, the relationship, the university's been around for just over 150 years, and aviation at Purdue has been around for just under 100 years. So there's quite a bit of pedigree there. And I think it's just an excellent event. Like you mentioned, it has pretty historic roots, dating back to the 1900s, and about 1911 was the first.
And you started with 2 aircraft, right?
2 aircraft. We did have 17,000 people that first time.
Yeah, 17,000 people came to see newer. 2 aircraft. This probably because of the fascination.
Yeah, no, it's certainly been kind of a fixation of Purdue students and faculty. I mean, Amelia Earhart was a flight instructor for the university. So quite a bit of history there. Yeah,
absolutely. So your static display now, I see you have at least 16 aircraft that are coming in, everything from trainers to DC-3s, some twin engine trainers, and you've got a couple of commercial airliner type of aircraft coming in. Or maybe you can tell me a little bit more about it since it's your bailiwick.
Yeah, so you mentioned 16 aircraft. Those actually are just 16 types of aircraft. We have multiple of some of those, specifically in some like the military aircraft. There'll be like kind of some pairs, some squadrons there. And then also some of the airlines are bringing similar aircraft. So we'll kind of have like an airline display. Our presenting sponsor, Envoy, will bring an E-175, which is a mid-sized regional jet. And there'll be Park Show Center. And then from there, you can just find all different places to kind of get your aviation on, so to speak.
Right. You have a CRJ coming in too, right?
Yep, we got CRJs. We even have the Purdue University Hawker. One Papa uniform will be there. The aircraft that we fly in every day. There's a reason that Lafayette Purdue University Airport is the second busiest airport in Indiana, and it's because of us burning holes in the sky,
Yeah.
So we like to show those aircraft off as well.
For those who are not familiar with the Hawker, that's actually a business jet or a private jet. So it's kind of cool that you guys have one for the school. And you mentioned military aircraft. Do you know what some of the military aircraft are?
Yeah, so we'll have some T6s. We'll also have the A-10. The kind of a cool aside to that is my roommate is actually the crew chief for the A-10 there. He's a guardsman as well as a Purdue professional flight student, but just kind of an interesting aside there. We'll also
Your
have...
roommate is a guardsman?
Yes, yeah.
That's convenient.
Yeah, exactly. He's actually in charge of parking for Purdue Aviation Day. So kind of just, all hands.
Everybody volunteers to do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, well, and he's actually a member of our executive board because, believe it or not, parking is a big deal at large events. We got to make sure
trust me.
It is clear and efficient.
Yeah, I can believe that. Stephanie, so even though you look like a student,
thank you.
I found out that you aren't, that you actually graduated back in 2010 and have been working in the industry since then. So why don't you take us back a little bit and tell us about school and then your path, or tell us about your path into aviation, and that now you're the head of the safety program for Purdue.
Yeah, so I went to school here from '06 to 2010. And during my time, I was very involved with student projects, similar to Nicolas. My project was more based on Hangar of the Future, which opened a lot of opportunities working with programs like Delta Airlines and things of that nature, which really exposed me to opportunities in the airline world. And so then after graduation, there was a bit of an economic downfall at that time. And so the CTI.
We all heard about that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, which created a bit of a holding pattern for me. And so there was a 2-year waiting list for ATC training down in Oklahoma. We had to finish the last 6 weeks down there as part of the CTI program. And so I was like, hey, let's go figure out this airline. This is fun. And so that's really at the 121 environment, I got my heart for safety, and I learned so much. They just let me dive in the deep end and learned operationals, whether it be flight operations, in-flight airport management, ramp safety is an area that I really specialize and focus on, which really fast forward coming to Purdue has been such a gift to share with the students. Through Purdue Aviation Day, as Nicolas shared, it's a student-ran event, but we hold them to all of our safety procedures, protocols that we have for the rest of the school. So they are doing risk assessments and bringing that over for our review, showing us what the data points they had, whether it be a parking plan, ramp plan, all of those aspects were student-ran with the approval, obviously, of leadership such as myself. So it's been really fun to have them actively learning in the nuts and bolts of what planning is, not only from a marketing perspective, but operational. So
absolutely. So let me go back a minute, though. Why Purdue? When did you know you wanted to go Purdue? To Purdue? And when did you know that you wanted to study aviation?
Oh, I'm a Hoosier, so I bleed black and gold.
Wow, that's a simple answer.
Yeah. And but joking aside, so I've always been fascinated with leisure travel. Even as a young kid, just the whole mindset of you can go anywhere in the world when you board a plane. And so I just kind of been hooked ever since. I think that's usually most aviators' backstory.
You know, I think that's kind of fascinating when you say it that way, though, because you know, we do realize, and people that fly, whether they fly as a passenger or as a pilot, that you can literally be across the country in 5 hours or thereabouts, depending on what kind of aircraft you're in, or you can be halfway around the world, you know, in a short period of time, relatively speaking. I mean, you can fly to China and be there in 18 hours or thereabouts. So, right. You know, and it is kind of, it's something to get in a plane and then go somewhere else, step out of the plane and realize how far away you are from where you originated. So that's a really good point. But that really attracted you to the industry?
It did. And so then once I got in the 121 environment, SMS was created in 2015. Obviously, they've been working on it before, but became more regulatory. And so that's where I discovered my heart for safety. So getting in the safety data, reading safety reports, learning people's journeys, was something I just really respected and thought it was very empowering, and still to this day find it very empowering to help people's journeys be a mitigation, right? They don't want somebody else to be exposed to that hazard. And so that is where it has grown. And so having the opportunity to have Purdue students, or really any student, have that understanding and be the leaders of tomorrow with carrying that safety heart is really just my career goal. So,
well, it goes without saying the importance of safety in aviation. I mean, it's our number one thing for any of us that fly. Again, whether it's as a pilot or as a passenger, I mean, you want to know that you're flying on a safe aircraft with safe pilots, et cetera, and so forth. So tell us a little bit more about what you do specifically for Purdue University and their safety program, which has a great reputation, by the way.
Well, thank you. So I oversee all of the policy procedures for our school. So that's pro flight, maintenance, management, all of those degrees encompass that. and we embody a SMS program, so a safety management program. So that's safety reporting, emergency response, just culture, everything under the sun of that. We really strive to have a proactive safety culture. And Purdue Aviation Day is just a piece of that puzzle that really demonstrates that. It's great to say safety is number one, but we need everyone to be an active participant. And so I just think Purdue Aviation Day is a great example of that.
Absolutely. Speaking of safety, you have something, Nicolas, called the MAG tag. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's actually
it's a very smart idea.
You know, I feel validated after a while, right? Because I'm just so proud of this project that we worked on. So my freshman year was the year that we transitioned from a Cirrus type aircraft to a Piper aircraft. So there was, a fleet kind of, as you're getting into a new plane, there's
fleet change,
growing
right?
pains, right? Mm-hmm. And one of those things that we identified a hazard. And the mitigation was, it was basically a part that I designed by drawing on a napkin originally. I was a part of, Stephanie runs the student safety team. So it's kind of like a student organization, but it's really more just like centered around flight
safety
ops.
Focused.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a collection of us that are really passionate about kind of the core tenets of safety within flight operations. So we work really closely with our safety officers and then obviously our safety manager, Stephanie here. So we identified this. We kind of did some research on trying to figure out what the root cause was, because you can't just say, oh, this button's being left on. Okay, why is the button being left on, right? So we did a lot of research into that, did a root cause analysis, that sort of thing. And then, I had that idea of drawing something on a napkin, and I brought that to the person who was in charge of the project at the time, and we kind of workshopped 5 or 6 ideas until it eventually became the MAG tag. So the MAG tag basically slides into basically this kind of bar on the Piper archers, and it forces the magneto switches, which is basically the ignition in a general aviation aircraft, into the off position. So we kind of just started exploiting geometry and plastic 3D modeling. And we ended up creating this part. It's gone off to the part office in Chicago and gotten an FAA, like PMA part number. And it's still patent pending right now. But it's a really great project and kind of shows some of that collaboration that you would usually see at like a graduate level.
Right, exactly. That's what's impressive about it. You came in as a freshman and jumped right in there. I just wanted to jump in. I'm old school in terms of some things regarding flying. And so first thing I think of is a control lock. It has some of the same benefits a control lock does in a different kind of a way. But the other part of it is, the checklist factor. And so I'm not asking this to make an issue of it, but we all have to do the checklist when we're flying an aircraft. And part of that is shutting down the mags. Or switching off the mags. So when you were researching this and you guys were kind of figuring it all out and you came up with this really great idea, how did that factor in?
Sure. So the issue is not just, hey, I've left the magnetos on. The issue is also, as a outsider who's not operating this aircraft, we talk about the difference between slips and mistakes, right? So you can have a slip where you accidentally leave the magnetos on, but also think about the hazard to our rampers essentially, or anyone that's outside of the plane, right? From the outsider perspective, I can't identify whether or not these mags are hot, meaning on. So we attached a big remove before flight flag to it. So now anyone walking up to the aircraft can automatically see that the mags are in the off position just by walking up to it. So it's kind of that Swiss cheese model, right? So if I have one mitigating factor, a checklist, great. But if I don't have a second one, you just kind of are wearing the cheese grater at that point.
No, that's a great explanation. I thank you for helping clarify that. Stephanie, did you want to add something to that?
I'm just so proud of Nick. That was awesome. Over here.
You're proud. I'm impressed. But it's really great. Nick, while we're talking with you, why don't we go back a little bit and tell us about what got you into aviation and you picking Purdue and all of the things that I mean, we could do a show on you, Nicolas. So, but we'll keep it on Purdue University. But tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So for the longest time, I was always interested in aviation. I don't have any family that's in aviation specifically, but my dad's a fireman, and he used to do like flight medicine on a helicopter. So I always kind of had that like in the back of my mind. So we'd go to the local airport, and we would sit on the hood of the car and eat fast food and watch planes land. So that was the very first exposure. But I was very interested in going into film and that sort of thing, kind of all throughout my childhood. And then I got kind of to around high schoolish, and I really got into like flight sim, just kind of like messing around with it. And then I always kind of found like my younger brother was the one who was going like upside down between buildings, and I certainly enjoy that part of flight sim. But I was also the one that was doing the air traffic control, like very specific and accurate to reality. And my dad goes, you're pretty good at that, right? And I go, oh, maybe I should take a look at this. So, well, that's just when the addiction started, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, gotcha. Speaking of air traffic control, I was going to bring it up a little later, but you gave me the perfect segue for it. So I'll go to you, Stephanie. Stephanie, for one, what made you add that as part of your education? Where was your interest? Where did your interest come from with air traffic control? And did that have anything to do with your interest in safety?
Yeah, so my skill sets, I'm very strong in math and science, right? Like most aviators. And so when I was looking at fields of where my traits would excel in, I kept coming back to air traffic control.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead. It got my attention. I'm sure it did our viewers too.
Yeah. And so with that being said, and just providing safety for people, giving that level of care with the science and math and now what we call STEM, it just seemed like a perfect win-win for me.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking about the whole STEM factor, and that's really what you're talking about. And, I don't know if it's always addressed that way when people think of air traffic control. But in terms of how involved it is and how significant it is, and we have one of the, if not the best air traffic control system in the world, with the number of flight operations we do and the variations with those, and now factoring in the new factor, which is the unmanned aerial vehicles and all of the new types of, I forget, what's it called? Advanced aviation. I'm trying to think of the new vehicles that are going to be picking up people downtown and stuff.
Oh, air mobility.
Advanced air mobility. Thank you very much, Nicolas. So, and all of those type of things, which is making air traffic control even more challenging to manage and to do the technology for and things like that. Before I get too far off track, let me go back to the event coming up this Saturday, which is taking place this Saturday, April 15th from 9 to 4. And let you talk a little bit about some of the guests that you're going to have there, the guest speakers, panelists, and folks. Nicolas, I can probably give you that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of try to bridge the gap between industry, community. We're kind of, and like youth activities, that sort of thing. So our guest speakers kind of have a whole gamut of, appealing to someone who just wants to learn a little bit about aviation, to someone who really wants to get into the meat and potatoes of a specific topic, right? So it can be anything from our 10-minute sessions, which is kind of like a meet the pros. It's AOPA, Airline Pilots Association, one of the larger unions in the workspace here. They'll have panelists, everything from airport ops managers, center controllers, so even like legal counsel within aviation, right? Just kind of getting into kind of different cross sections of aviation. That way you can kind of see what you can do. And then we have like the more detailed presentations. We have 2 Purdue alum that are presenting. First, we have Laura Savino. She's a captain at a major U.S. airline, And she's written a book, Jet Boss, as well as she does a decent amount of speaking engagements. I met her at Oshkosh, which is the world's largest air show, it's quite a good story that she has personally as well as professionally. And then we also have Jonathan Perry, who also again a Purdue graduate. If you're seeing a pattern here. And going to talk about kind of his experience as both a naval test pilot as well as a researcher. So kind of diving into a whole bunch of different topics. We do them in our large lecture rooms, kind of in our aviation building. So all types of stuff, really. That's what we're looking at for guest speakers.
Yeah, I saw that. And I also see that you have somebody from legal counsel. So they'll talk about aviation law, which a lot of people don't always think about, but that's a major aspect of the industry. And then the very important one is dispatching, both airline dispatching, but I have to throw my little 2 cents in for business aviation. That's a big one for corporate aviation departments, schedulers and dispatchers. That's a heck of a responsibility, whether it's the commercial side with airlines or whether it's business aviation in the corporate world, dispatching aircraft around the world, and all of the things that go with that to coordinate where the pilots stay, where the passengers in the back are going to stay, fueling, and then when it's international, there's all kinds of extra things that come into play. So dispatching is a really great thing. So it's kind of neat that you guys are going to have a flight dispatcher there to kind of talk about that and introduce the kids to that.
Yeah,
I try to. I'm sorry.
If I can just jump in. I just wanted to share the fact that if I wasn't kind of running around with my head cut off all day, I'd probably be most interested in joining those two. Personally, I think, business aviation is really fantastic, as well as aviation law. We do a class at the School of Aviation here just on aviation law, doing everything from case briefs to, actually tonight, it is Thursday night, is my term paper is due, where we examine, international aviation law. Like you mentioned, there is a big international component to aviation. I don't think many people think about the fact that we're moving around multi-million-dollar assets to countries where the originating asset has no sovereignty, right?
Right.
I think that there's a whole lot of interesting topics like that. And I think that's kind of some of the stuff we're going to dive in some of these more detailed conversations, open up to questions, really get people's thoughts from industry as well as just, someone who's interested and curious.
Yeah. And the whole thing with sustainability, and how that factors in when you're going to other countries and other parts of the world and what their laws and rules are and things like that. And then just some of this, I won't call it simple, but when you're dealing with permission to enter certain airspace or to land at certain airports and things like that. I remember on the business aviation side that it used to take several weeks to get clearance to fly into different parts of China. That's been narrowed down now to a few days, but that took years for that to come into play. And that's where your aviation attorneys and your guys in government and things like that know about those type of things or specialize in them, are able to do that. The other part that we wanted to do with the show today is talk about Purdue University and more specifically about the School of Aviation. I have to look at it every time. Aviation and Transportation Technology. I think that's a smart title, by the way, because boy, that covers just about anything that moves, not just flies, but that moves. Yeah. But on the aviation side of it, with you being an alum there, Stephanie, and Nicolas, you currently being, I think you're a junior now.
Yep.
Yeah, you're in your third year there. So I'd like for both of you to kind of give your perspective about what you learned there, what the school's like, and things like that. And before you do that, I'm just going to go through this real quick and mention the undergraduate majors there. So at Purdue University, you have aeronautical engineering technology, you have aerospace financial analysis, you have airline management and operations, airport management and operations, aviation management overall, professional flight, which we've already been talking about, unmanned aerial systems, which I just mentioned. And then you have a combined bachelor and master's degree program for certain things. Then your graduate programs include aviation financial management, aviation safety management, aviation and aerospace, a master's in that. And then you have a couple of PhD programs, aviation technology and then technology. So tell us a little bit more about Purdue University.
Sure. Yeah. So a great introduction to the university as a whole. So we have those 7 undergraduate majors. Kind of the management is kind of we have that umbrella major that's just aviation management, where you kind of get a touch of each flavoring. And I'll kind of let Stephanie touch on that in just a moment here. But I do want to highlight our AET, Aeronautical Engineering Technology. Most of the time I get questions from prospective families that go along the lines of, well, I know Purdue is really well known for its engineering program. What separates AET in the School of Aviation from aeronautical engineering on main campus in the College of Engineering? And really the difference is hands-on. We're still an ABET accredited engineering program, meaning you can go work for Lockheed or Boeing or, whatever aerospace industry manufacturer you're interested in. But the difference is you have the hands-on ability. We also offer to our students the ability to get their airframe and power plant mechanic certificate from the FAA. And we have a 147 program there. We also have even seen students from main campus interested in coming to those classes as well. Maybe not pursuing the full, 1,000 seat hours, but that's what we see there for our AET program, which I really think is a great program. I lived with my roommate freshman year was an AET, so I kind of got to see what that looked like. So yeah, sure. AET is a really super solid program, seriously.
Good. And what's your overall experience, Nicolas, with the school? It seems that Purdue University has a good balance between the academic side and the practical side, is my best way of putting it.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. If I could just add to that, I guess. Purdue University is not, while it has a very strong aviation program, it's not just an aviation program. That is if I could give one singular thing that separates Purdue from other very similar programs, it's the fact that I can go on main campus and minor in something else, or I can go make friends that, believe it or not, don't want to talk about aviation as much as we always want to. Some people don't even like talking about aviation. I think they're a little.
Yeah, well, we have that small problem. We have aviation in our blood, in our veins. So we're totally hooked on it. But you bring up a really valid point. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's really, we talk about, the diversity of people in our majors, but you also have to think about the diversity of thought and discipline. And Purdue does a really good job of doing that, as well as in kind of incentivizing getting either industry experience or just some sort of different experience, kind of that hands-on job opportunities, leadership opportunities outside of, your academic obligations, because, 12 to 19 credit hours only means so much. In an interview and kind of just in the scope of life, you really want to talk about something that you did that made a difference. And Purdue wants you to make that difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephanie, you came out of Purdue with an open mind. You're kind of like, okay, I'm finished here. Now I'm going to try this. And so tell us a little bit about that and about your experience at Purdue and how that transformed to what you're doing.
Yeah. So my Purdue
what you've done.
Yeah. So my Purdue experience it just left me so open-minded, and I love that. And I'm so thankful for that, because it gave me the confidence of being a young leader when you're graduating in your 20s and you're, the world's your oyster. And so I'm just so thankful to have that foundation that I built while I was at Purdue. And also too, being in those special projects. Mine was called Hangar of the Future. It's actually still going, which is awesome, with our AET major. But it opened the doors. My first job in my career was being an operations analyst for Alaska Airlines. And my first day, I was in a room with nothing but executives. I was doing the dashboards, and all of those tool sets came from my background and my learning from Purdue. So I think that was the biggest takeaway is doing those practical hands-on projects. You guys heard it yourself, Nicolas, walking you guys through that risk assessment for the mag tags, right? And so just being able to leverage that is something that I'm very thankful for, and I still think we provide at Purdue University today.
Okay, so what was more challenging, walking Nicolas and the gang through their stuff, or sitting in a boardroom with a bunch of executives trying to make them understand your information that you were sharing?
Well, I think I definitely was more nervous for myself being in the boardroom of executives, but in both scenarios, I've learned people just want continuous improvement, right? I think we genuinely wake up every day of how can we be better? How can we make our airspace safer for everyone? Now, do I think people articulate it that way? Maybe not so much, right? So being part of people's journeys and walking Nicolas and the students through that process and how they can actually make change in a practical sense that doesn't necessarily take 5 years, right? I think that's where safety may or may not get the bad rap of, oh, it takes so long, it's so clunky. And so it's pretty rewarding to give those students those practical tools that says, here, you can make the change in a short period of time, and being able to implement it in our operation.
Yeah, that's well put. One of the things that I try to do with the show, besides let the audience know about specific opportunities in the industry, education opportunities with schools like Purdue and things like that, is also let them hear from guests like you advice on what they should, what would be helpful to them, what they should look out for, and things like that. Believe it or not, because of Purdue University's reputation, it's an intimidating school for some. So a kid in high school may say, gosh, I don't even know if I'm qualified to go to a school like that, and things like that. And this is not conjecture. I've actually heard this more than once.
Yeah.
So what can you guys share from an advice standpoint to encourage young people that, no, this is a school that can be for you, and there's a lot that you can get out of it?
Well, I think some of the best advice I've ever been given in my life, which I still use today, is it's never a decision until it's on the table. So it's never a no until you apply and hear it, right? So don't count yourself out. Also, too, being involved, being in groups, whether it's a community project, whether it's asking questions, finding a mentor, is something else that is priceless, in my opinion. If you want to do something, especially with the internet, Google, LinkedIn, find somebody that's doing something that you want to do or similar and ask them. A lot of times the people that are deemed successful or in the spot where you want to be, they want to share that information because they don't want it to be as hard.
Couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. Yeah. And, especially aviation. We all like to just regurgitate it, that term, but that's what we do. But no, absolutely. I think those are really great points. The mentorship, and reaching out, not being afraid to talk with people, especially if you go to an event like Purdue's Aviation Day or Oshkosh or any of these aviation events, an air show. If you have a chance to talk to somebody that's working in the industry, whether they're a pilot, a mechanic, or some other aspect of the industry, and you can have a conversation with them, I totally agree with that. Do so. And then you can also do like Nicolas, and you can do 5,000 things and be involved in all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
it happens.
But actually, all joking aside, and just trying to bust Nicolas' chops a little bit, I think what Nicolas does is really great too, because it puts you deeply entrenched in the industry and gives you perspective on things as you work on these projects. I say that for you, Nicolas, but you tell us.
Sure. Yeah. I think, let me address that, but I also want to address kind of the previous question you posed to Stephanie.
Please.
Kind of to the student that's a little bit nervous about applying to Purdue. And what I'll say is, Purdue and any other institution is looking for drive and determination, but also looking for balance, right? And you should really be looking for that within yourself as well. Find time to have fun, find time to care for others, that sort of thing. And really, you want to find a university that is a good match for you, right? Because I can stand up here and say everything that's great about Purdue, but at the end of the day, I don't make a commission on your tuition. I wish I did. I'd be filthy rich by now.
You'd have a lot of flying money, right?
Well, I don't own an airplane easily by now, maybe two. But regardless, I think just like Stephanie said, you're kind of almost playing with like decisions that haven't even come to fruition yet. You might as well apply. So I think that goes for anywhere. Purdue is a rigorous institution, but that's what gives us the value of the degree and the value and caliber of individuals that are here, both at the academic side of it and as well as the student side of it. Could you remind me what the second question was in that series?
Yeah, sure. No, just in terms of being involved in different aspects of the school and the program and the things that you do, that you volunteer for, that help you get further immersed in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly, as you've mentioned, lean towards if there's a scale of involvement and over-involvement, I've tilted the scale and pushed it down like a cliff. So I really enjoy that aspect of it, mostly because I do it with people that I value their opinions and their insight more than anything. So I feel like I'm growing as an individual, right? That I'm able to make my next giant leap. And, I show resilience in different, aspects when we come across problems. Like, for example, within Purdue Aviation Day, we have individuals that have interned and, worked at all these different places. So I feel like as kind of a proxy, I'm getting some of the knowledge and insight that they had kind of at all these different companies. And I'm just kind of taking the best parts of that. And also at the same time, getting involved in all these means allows me to meet individuals from all across the industry. And at the end of the day, I think this is kind of a trope of aviation, right? Is that the industry is so small that I have mutual friends almost everywhere I go, and who doesn't want to have that, right?
Yeah.
So I have a great time doing it. I think I have had a lot of impact on others, and I've certainly taken a lot of value from what others have taught me.
Yeah, you brought up internships, and I think you were bringing it up in reference to things that you've learned from others. But I also think internships are very important in terms of a great transition from school to an actual job, depending again on what it is. I mean, we know that there are major requirements in terms of the number of hours and everything to become an airline pilot or professional pilot, meaning also corporate and things like that. The things that you have to go to get the ratings, get the time and things like the hours that you need, et cetera. But I wanted to back up a little bit with both of you and just kind of talk about, so we know when you're a freshman, it's figuring out where everything is. Although it sounds like you hit the ground running, Nicolas, when you were a freshman. And by the time you're a junior, now you're really kind of locked in on what you're thinking you should be focused on major-wise and things like that. I know that some of the universities now give kids 2 years to figure it all out. But that junior year and senior year, you're really moving in the direction that you think you want to go. And I just wanted to get both of your thoughts to share with our audience about that, about your thoughts when you were a junior. You are a junior now, Nicolas, and then you're going to be a senior, and where that takes you in terms of your future, where it took you so far, Stephanie, and where it's going to take you, Nicolas, in terms of your future, just dealing with that.
You can go first, Nicolas, if you want, and then I'll hop on.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree. I mean, you're narrowed down by the time you're in your third year. So I've narrowed down, obviously, that I want to do something in aviation. Now, I'm kind of a serial procrastinator in some senses of like making decisions in industry. I kind of know what I want to do, but I also, like you mentioned, I wear a lot of hats, and that's exposed me to a lot of great opportunities that I've been thankful for. So I kind of like to procrastinate my decision to really kind of pigeon or put myself in.
You're being thorough. That's what you're doing.
Yes, yeah, that's the phrase I was going for. So I'm really interested in kind of exploring all types of aviation. These days, I'm really interested in aviation marketing, as well as, you kind of mentioned business aviation. I'm also interested in that a good bit. But really, right now, my passion lies in what I'm doing, which is aviation education, right? Teaching people. I really enjoy the impact that has, and I don't see myself getting outside of general aviation really in my career. I foresee me doing something perhaps outside of general aviation, but I think I'll always be involved in that, which I think is just a ginormous passion of mine. And I don't think that I would have been able to make that decision unless I had been kind of zeroed in on it for now, 3 or 4 years.
Sure. Stephanie?
Yeah. And so to add on to that, I think the takeaway I have now reflecting back is, aviation, it is so specific, but also in the same breath, it's not. And so when I was down the set, I thought dead set I was going to be air traffic control, and there was an economic downfall. And so that wasn't necessarily a door that was open for me right away. And so with my education and my background that I got at Purdue, I was able to pivot. And, it actually ended up being a blessing, right, in disguise of, well, that's how I found airline management. And that's where I learned safety and how do I now teach students of that. And so it was this very specific training aspect of aviation, but it's just grown into this different avenues. So you're starting to get comfortable your junior year, senior year, you're knowing what classes you're wanting to take, but also in the same breath, don't get overwhelmed with that, I think, from the student perspective, because there's so many options within aviation, whether you do finance, and you're able to take that training with you and share that different perspective, which always, I tie it back to safety, right? With SMS and risk management, it's vital to have those different types of perspectives and backgrounds. So kind of took it the other way with your question.
Yeah.
But
No. Nicely said by both of you. You guys, you make me want to go to Purdue, and I'm way beyond that. So
come on, we'll take you.
The only thing I come there to do is to get a PhD in aviation. But listen, let's kind of wrap things up, bring it full circle back to Purdue Aviation Day. Big day coming up. As you said, it's a day in how many hours?
Let's call it, I got the exact countdown timer here. 1 day, 17 hours, 38 minutes, and 40 seconds.
So cool. No, it's really neat. It's happening this Saturday, the 15th, from 9 to 4. Lots of aircraft out there, actually a lot more aircraft than I gave you guys credit for, which is great to hear. And the combination of commercial, military, private, instructional, et cetera. And then you guys always have a really good turnout with folks. So, and talking in pre-show, Nicolas, it sounded like that turnout is going to happen again this time.
We're hoping for it. We can only do so much, but we've done everything from putting up billboards to online ads, radio ads. We've done the whole gamut. So we put in our intentional.
Check the weather. You guys expecting good weather, I hope?
So far we are. It looks like it's going to be 70, maybe a few scattered clouds. We'll see. Knock on wood.
I'm glad to hear that. One thing I almost forgot, and I wanted to ask you about it. Where did atmospheric science come from?
I'm a ginormous weather nerd. I love watching storms. I grew up watching Storm Chasers, so that's where it came from.
So then, yeah. So you like the movie Twister, et cetera? No.
I like the scene where the cow gets lifted up and taken into the Twister. I always find that one funny. I actually had a class for my minor, which was geosciences and media, and it was exclusively debunking scenes in movies regarding atmospheric and planetary sciences.
Oh, I can only imagine what that's probably like. I do get the weather nerd factor. I happen to be one too, and I think that many of us who fly we just part of it's fascination and part of it's practical. I mean, we kind of want to know what we're dealing with when we're up there, or what we can expect depending on what we're heading towards, et cetera, and so forth. So yeah, I totally get that. I just wanted to ask you about it because I've had other young guests on the show that also one of their minors or major actually was, atmospheric science, or the last one I had on was space meteorology. which I thought was pretty cool.
That's very important, especially regarding polar routes and that sort of thing.
Precisely. So, well, I wish you guys the best with your aviation day. And as you continue on your course, Nicolas, with school and everything, and Stephanie, you with what you're doing on the safety realm, I think that's really, really important. I'm a big advocate of safety, and I'll share a very short, very quick, funny story. When my kids were little, I have daughters, and I used to take them up flying, and they would come out to do the pre-flight with me, and we would be doing the pre-flight. Well, the first time I did that with them, and they were toddlers, they were a bit distracting, and I got in and, closed up and was ready to fire her up. And the guy on the ramp was like, "Hey, not yet." And I opened a little window and I said, "Hey, what's up?" And he said, "You didn't remove your chocks."
Oh, yeah.
And I said, okay. But I thought after that, I said, okay, told my wife, you keep the kids inside the FBO until after I do the real pre-flight, and then we'll bring them out and do a pretend walk around, which is an extra walk around anyhow. And on the safety tip, that's a good thing, because sometimes you'll realize you overlooked something. So anyhow, that was an example of making sure I was staying safe. So, but I do wish you guys the best with everything that you're doing, and with this event coming up on Saturday. I think it's going to be great. And I appreciate you stepping away from all of that to take some time and talk to me about Purdue University and all of the things that it offers and the potential of it out there. Any final closing words from either one of you?
All I'd like to say is just once again, thank you for having us on. I hope that at least this has reached someone who maybe was interested in Purdue. And we'll see you guys on the flight line this weekend.
Sounds good. Stephanie?
No, thank you so much for this opportunity, and all is welcome. Purdue is a land grant, so we love community, and that's one of our focus areas. So see you on Saturday.
Yeah, and if they want to look up information, what's the best route for that?
PurdueAviationDay.com. If you can remember the name of the event, we got our own website. So
all the information that you need. Wonderful. Okay, guys, well, take care, and all the best.
Awesome.
As everyone knows, my goal, as always, with all things aviation and aerospace, is to share aviation career opportunities and possibilities available to those who have ever considered or possibly had, maybe not thought about it, or maybe thinking it was out of reach, the idea of pursuing a career in aviation. For more aviation career videos like this one, please check out my library available at Private Air Media on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thanks again for joining another great conversation with another great set of guests. Hope that this show was helpful. And as with every show, this is for any and everyone who has any interest in any aspect of aviation and aerospace. All Things Aviation and Aerospace is a presentation of Private Air Media. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Until next time, please take care, stay safe flying if you're a pilot, and blue skies for all of us. All the best, and have a good one.